So could you introduce yourselves? Tell me your name, majors.
I can start. My name is Lana Hanine, and I'm a bio major, and I'm a senior at Seton Hall.
My name is Chala. I am psychology major. I was also playing volleyball for Seton. I'm junior.
And can you tell me about the organization you're a part of and how it's helping make an impact overseas?
So I'm part of an organization called Scholars for Syria, and we've done many events about to raise awareness about everything that's going on in Syria because not a lot of people know about what is happening in that region, and we also have done many like fundraisers and stuff to help refugees that are both in the United States and recently to help people that were affected in Syria due to recent events.
Actually, I wasn't part of any organization. I came here with athletic scholarship, so I was just like playing volleyball. And I mean, I was born and raised in Turkey, and like what happened recently in Turkey affected us a lot. Plus, like we were like overseas here, and what we can do was so limited.
And when it comes to the specific fundraising efforts you're doing in result of the earthquake, can you tell me a little bit more about that? I know you've been tabling around campus. So just
Yeah, we were tabling. We like part of the fundraisers. Also, we were talking about what was happening. We were raising awareness about the earthquake, and we sold like a bunch of like our. Like, we made. I'm sorry. We sold a bunch of our like merch that we have for the club to be able to like raise money for the people over there, and we actually were able to raise quite a good amount. I think we raised around like $800, which is really good for like a couple hours of tabling, and it was also able to spread awareness to the students. So even the people who didn't donate, at least they had like more knowledge and more awareness over what happened.
And where's the money going specifically?
So there's a bunch of organizations. I don't think we have a specific one in mind just because it's very hard to find an organization that will actually get the money to the people, especially with like the sanctions that are going on in the country.
And could you explain a little bit more about like the political situation?
Yeah, so on top of the earthquake that just happened in Syria, Syria has been through like a civil war since 2011, so they've been through quite a lot. And as a result of the civil war and everything, the United States decided they wanted to put sanctions on the government, and these sanctions make it so it's like impossible for any country around the world to be able to help or aid Syria in any way. As a way to put pressure on the government, which isn't really working because a government that doesn't care about its people can't really be pressured. And then so as a result of that, it's hard to actually get anything in. It's hard to be able to use like US dollars in Syria. And that's why it's like hard because everything that has to go through like the Syrian like government. So it's either allowed in or it's not allowed in, and that's the tricky part because even if it's allowed in, like the money or the aid or anything, there's a big chance that the government might take a big part of it.
And is that a pretty big concern in terms of fundraising? Like, do you even know if the money is gonna?
That is definitely a huge concern. There's some organizations that we have in mind that work more with like the rebel groups in the country, which isn't under the government control. But even with that, we're definitely making sure that we give to organizations that we would know will get the money to the people, because at the end of the day, we want to be able to like help out in any way possible, and just like giving the money to organizations that aren't necessarily going to get it to people in need is definitely what we're trying to avoid, like 100%.
And Chala, so you can probably speak more on the situation in Turkey. So, in terms of the fundraiser, I know the club is specifically Scholars for Syria, but are any of the funds going to Turkish organizations as well, or is it just solely Syrian?
I think we, based on the list of organizations we were looking at, there was both like Syrian and Turkish organizations. The only thing is like with Turkey, it's a lot easier to get money there, and as a result, it was a lot easier for them to get aid and help from like many countries and many people, because aid arrives like very easily, more easily than it does in Syria. So I think we do have both. We have organizations that would support both, but I think our goal is to try to see if we can get it to Syria, just because they definitely like need it more in terms of the fact that they aren't getting it from like other countries.
Got it. So because of Syria's political climate and the U.S. sanctions on Syria, your primary focus is helping them because they don't have as many resources as does Turkey.
Yes.
Got it. So this earthquake impacted at least 2.4 million people who were killed, thousands were injured, and millions displaced. Can you just tell me, like, I know, Chala, you are Turkish, and Lana, you are Syrian. Could you, if you're comfortable sharing, no pressure at all, how has that impacted your family back there?
Yeah, I can go. So it was almost like 2 weeks that since earthquakes happened, and it's just not only one. After I think 4 hours, it happened again, and I just seen in like Twitter, and my friends were just letting me know. Actually, like 10 minutes ago, it's happened again. I think it's not the main earthquake, but the earthquakes that's coming after it. Like my family, like I live in very far away from like southeastern Turkey. I didn't lose anyone like who I know, but the schools were shut down. Like I have like sister, like she didn't go to school, and there's a lot of like people like who get like victim from earthquake, and they had like moved to other cities. So actually like my country like as a whole is experiencing it. It's not just the south part of Turkey, and they now went to online education for all universities in Turkey. So it's also another effect, and like we don't know still like how it's gonna affect like economy. But and for my side, like for when we learn about earthquake for first time, it was on Monday, and like I don't remember anything from Monday to like through to like Wednesday, because we were so traumatized. Like I remember the nights I woke up, it was like around like 3 a.m. and I couldn't go back to sleep. I was just like trying to like calling my parents, like if like see if there is a way to like get a ticket and fly my home, because at that point like we were like so devastated and feeling so helpless that like, and like it's sharing sadness thing. Like people don't know here what's earthquake, since like doesn't experience it. But it was very hard to like find like someone to like who really like understands what am I going through.
Also, my family in Syria is in Damascus, which is far away from where the earthquake happened. So they weren't like, I didn't lose anyone from my family, but it was the same thing. Like the whole country like experienced like the aftermath of like the earthquake. They felt like the shocks. They were like terrified. So and then the whole country was like in shutdown. I know so many like friends and like family friends who are in Aleppo, which was like hit the most, Aleppo, along with other regions in Syria, and like until this day they're like unsure of like where are they gonna come out alive, are they not, like is everything okay. Until this day they're unsure. Until this day there's still people like under the rubble, and that's just very very hard, because like as you see the stuff, the news about the earthquake lessen and lessen in the news, and you don't see it on like all the headlines anymore, it's hard because it's still there. They're still experiencing the aftermath. There's still like a whole city in rubbles. There's still people living under the rubble who have like yet to be saved. There's still so many families who are looking for their loved ones, and it's like the effects are, it's exactly what she was saying, like the feelings of helplessness. Like, yes, I'm here, and like thank god my family in Syria is okay, but it's like, what can we do? Like these people are so like helpless, and there's nothing we can do on our end.
So you organizing these fundraising efforts is a way for you guys, from my understanding, to kind of do what you can, everything in your power, even though you physically cannot be there with your family friends, like to support them.
Yeah, I feel like every like little thing counts. It's so hard to feel like your hands are tied and you're just looking at it from a distance while people are like suffering, but like any little effort counts, and even like just spreading awareness about it helps, because a lot of people are unaware about like what's going on, because it doesn't affect them, so it doesn't matter to them. Like they're just like, okay, whatever, it's not happening to us, then it's not happening.
So you feel like there's this lack of empathy, especially in the U.S., since it's not necessarily like a U.S. problem.
Yeah, I feel like in general, if it's not like a U.S. problem, and especially if it's like something that's happening like in the Middle East and stuff, it's just like, oh, it's far away. Like it's like they sometimes like people I feel like forget that these people are also humans, that they are also suffering. So I feel like that means it's like less news about it, less coverage about it. Like I know I was talking to some of my friends and they didn't even know that an earthquake happened, let alone that like millions of people were affected, like cities were destroyed, like hundreds and thousands of people are missing. So just like even like the littlest stuff like helps, because we can't do anything else. Like there's nothing else in our power to do, which is very, very hard. So we just start with whatever little we can do over here.
And could you tell our listeners like how they could help in this case?
I would say definitely like read up about it, like spread awareness about it, and I would say like donate to organizations that like you research on and like you know would like actually get the money to people. Donate to a bunch of like Syrian, Turkish organizations. Like the people there really, really need it. And I know now there's like a bunch of like clothing drives going on and stuff like that. Like now people need the help, and like even if you think it's like a little amount of money or like a couple articles of clothing, it still helps, because there are people now that have absolutely nothing. So no matter how much you think you won't make an impact, it will still do something. And I feel like even if you don't have the means to do any of that, raising awareness truly, truly helps, because that will help people like get more media coverage on it, get more like help there. Just spreading the word really does make a difference.
Yeah. So I was also like a part of one of the like volunteering organization around New Jersey, like in Brooklyn and New York, I guess. There's a lot of like drop-off points that where you can like drop off your donations, and there's I think current list, because it's keep changing, and like what's emergency is gonna fly over, otherwise they're gonna ship the stuff. But there's, as I said, like different addresses, and like truly agree with her. If it's not donation, if you cannot do anything about it, it's just raising the awareness, because that's also, as you said, the lack of empathy. But like the people are like suffering here, they're also humans, and it's natural disaster, like maybe it's not like common here to like have earthquake, but like anything can happen here too, and like people can suffer here as well.
And circling back to like your fundraising efforts, can you specifically kind of like detail what they are? I know you said tabling, but like are you selling baked goods? Like what are like the exact?
We were selling like we have t-shirts for the club, so we were selling a bunch of that. We weren't really selling baked goods. We were kind of just like giving that out like just to people. And then we were just like, I don't know, also like just raising money like without selling, like just having a box there for donations.
Yeah, also like we were in that table, so like it was for Syria and Turkey as well. So like we didn't really want to like sell something, that we have like some stuff, like some chocolate, like some cookies, but it was just for to like encourage people to like get their attention, and at least like come to our table and like see what's going on, because we also have like printed out information about like what happened, where did it happen, like how was the impacts there. So like we weren't selling, but it's just to encourage the people, like if they can donate, if they can spread the word.
And while you were at tabling fundraising, were there any interactions you had with other students, professors, or anyone else who kind of like made an impact on you, or kind of
We have heard of about tabling. My like former professor, like Professor Vignola, I was like she was teaching me English, and another one of my professor also like brought her all class, and my like couple of my teammates were like really like sportive, like they were like trying to like bring their friends also to table, and like some people I know around the campus, but there was a lot of people also just passed by and like didn't even like look at.
and how did that make you feel, just like people passing by and not?
I mean, I have been one of them, there was like donation tables, and I just like walked like passed by, then I like thought like maybe it shouldn't be like when I in future, like when I was passing by a donation table, I just told myself at least like I should like look at and give my attention.
And through this crisis you're experiencing with your ancestral lands being essentially destroyed to an extent, how are you guys taking care of yourselves through this, like, what I can imagine to be a very emotionally taxing time?
I think it's very hard. I'm the type of person where it's like, if there's something wrong, like I will try to fix it. It's like, I'm here, I'm in America, like why wasn't I there? Like why was I like protected from it, and like there was people there like suffering instead of me? So that is very hard, and it takes a toll on me a lot, like mentally, because it's like I like put myself in their shoes to the fact where it's like it should have been me, like it shouldn't have been them. But I try to step away from social media. I think like a bunch of like videos and continuous like overstimulation of like just a bunch of stuff that's happening, it like after a while you can't, like you get super sensitive to it. So I try to like take a step back from social media and try to remember that like we're trying to help these people as much as we can. Everything happens for a reason, but it's very hard, and I try to see all of the blessings that I have, and like everything that like I'm blessed with, and how I can use that to be able to help other people, and that really helps me like cope with it. But other than that, it really is hard, because it's like the feeling of like I'm helpless, and like I'm in a safe space where like all these people aren't, and it's hard to deal with that.
For me, like I'm still having a hard time to like manage myself here and like continue my daily life, but it got better because like as I said, like I had a chance to like get into the volunteering organization, and with that like I got a chance to like do something physically, because I spent my like all Friday and Saturday there, just like packing, sorting stuff, and like I didn't feel like I'm in like United States anymore, because it was all like Turkish people, like we were talking Turkish. It was a like family community, and I've just like seen those people like couple times in my life, but like I truly like feel them like they're like very valuable, and like as if like they're a member of my family. But definitely like social media is affecting a lot. I mean, for first days it was like we were traumatized, like I wasn't able to like get into the life here, and also like I was feeling like we were expected to be like normal as if nothing happened, but like actually our countries were like collapsing down. So like social media I would say, but also like I'm debating with myself, because social media is only way that we can get the news and we can see like how our people are doing. There is like good things, there is like governments or like non-governmental volunteer organizations, like they're trying their best, trying to like tent cities, because a lot of people had to move, a lot of people need to stay and like find a way to get their life back there, but it's gonna definitely take a very long time.
Is there anything you would like to speak about that we haven't touched upon already?
I just want to say that like to everyone who was spreading awareness, and to who was like people who were like talking about it and spreading stuff about it on social media, like it does make a difference, and it does help, and I just like wanted to thank them. I know it's like there's always like a bunch, like there's a lot of stuff going on in the world, right? But like I know, like I just want to thank them for like taking their time to like put attention on this issue and put a spotlight on this issue, because at this time like the people that really do need it. Yeah.
I also want to thank, there's a lot of people, like sometimes like from like professors, sometimes our friends, or like anyone, like I just like felt that like support of like being a part of like Seton family, and like there is like like we're all talking about raising awareness. There's people are not aware of, but there's also people aware of, and like they are really trying their best to help us. I want to thank them, and also like whoever is gonna like listen us. It just, like seriously just raise the awareness and like get your attention, because it's empathy. Like when you see like a picture, try to like feel it and like get their shoes, and then try to feel like what they might be experiencing.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like it's right now we're very desensitized, like as a society, where it's like we see these pictures, but it's like we don't actually like like experience them. We just see them as like passing pictures, and it's like okay, whatever, and like we move on. But like exactly what she said, like trying to put yourself in their shoes, to feel like what they're feeling in that situation, whether they're looking for their loved one, or they just lost a loved one, or whatever they might be feeling in that situation. Just like try to empathize with them. Sorry. Because it really like puts in that human aspect of like once you are like empathetic with these people, then you need like you feel an effort, like you need to do something, and that's that will create all these like movements, like all these like donation centers, and all these people that are coming out to volunteer, and people that are raising awareness. But once it's like, if you don't feel like, okay, if it's just like another picture to you, and there's no like that empathy, and there's no like that human like connection of like that person is also human and that person is also suffering, then it's like just so easy to just like ignore it and move on, and just go on with your day.
I also want to add one last thing. I really want like people here to be appreciate like what kind of life they have here, because we all know like the human brain, like we all have our like little problems in our lives, but just like see like what's going on like other side of the country, like she's saying like Syria has been going through with the war like since 2012. It just like I was just like looking at the people's face today on campus. I know it's Monday, hard to wake up and everything, but like I didn't see like one of the like smiling face, but like I was having my own problems before earthquake happened, and believe me, like for 2 weeks I have never remembered any of those, because now I'm having a like bigger problem which is affecting my homeland.
It really does put things into perspective, like our like menial like stressors and like problems and like first world problems, like stuff like that. They really do take a back seat when like there's people like literally out there fighting for their lives, and like that just lost their houses and lost their jobs and lost like their loved ones and everything. So it really does put things into perspective, I think.
Thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time to do this interview. I really appreciate it, and good luck honestly with like fundraising and everything.
Thank you so much for having us. Honestly, you're a wonderful host.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for having us.
So could you introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Kareem. I'm a bio major senior year at Seton University, and I am the president of the Middle Eastern North African Club.
And as president of the Middle Eastern North African Club, Mina, I'm assuming you're for short. Can you tell me about what you guys are doing in terms of like the earthquakes, and like how you're kind of dealing with that as like an organization?
Sure. One of the things that we wanted to make sure that was not an issue was that people wouldn't confuse that there was two types of fundraisers. So we've thrown all our efforts behind Scholars for Syria because they're really the face of it, and we want to. So we're spreading on social media like, hey, these are their events, these are what they're doing, and we want people to go to them and see that, hey, this is an important country in the Middle East that is in trouble, that requires attention, because social understanding of a country would help empathize. This is and in the previous interview they kept saying empathy is key. When people are able to empathize with people that they don't even know from thousands of miles away, being able to come up to students in tabling events and speak to them and get their perspective on it, because they literally are living through it. That changes everything. That changes everything, because you would be aware when you're voting for a member of House or Senate that is choosing to not send aid or wants to increase sanctions, or whatever the case may be. So, yeah.
And you have some knowledge. You said you studied about like the MENA region for a bit?
In the region, yeah. It's a very the geopolitical quagmire of the Middle East is quite a lot. It tends to a lot of people don't realize there's a lot of layers to it, and one of the layers is that Russian involvement has made it very difficult. Russia, for those who don't know, is in Syria militarily, which was requested by the President Bashar al-Assad when the rebel groups started taking more territory. And one of the things that the Russian military has done was there were 5 corridors in Syria that allowed aid to come into the country. Russia closed the majority of them. There was one left, and it was the border with southeast Turkey, which is the region that was hit by the earthquake. So the roads were damaged. It was difficult. First off, the fact that there's only one corridor that could get aid was already an issue. And then compound with the fact that many roads are damaged, and it's difficult to get aid through that one corridor now. To my understanding, I think the Assad regime has agreed to open more corridors, but that is a huge issue because especially in the beginning when the earthquake happened, it was very difficult to get any kind of aid into that region of Syria because that's what it borders with, and that was the only corridor open at the time. So understanding that portion of the geopolitics is extraordinarily important. I think people not misunderstand. They just don't know that this country is a platform for greater powers to basically use and abuse in whatever way, shape, or form that they see fit to their benefit.
And so basically, because not only because there was an earthquake in the region, but because of the previous poor infrastructure and kind of convoluted like political legislation or like involvement with Russia, and as well as like the Syrian government, that made it more difficult. And when you say corridor, I just wanted to clarify.
Sure.
Do you mean kind of like the entrance, like the border?
Technically, yes, but I think that's also these are also roads where that would be subject to inspection by the military, I believe, to my understanding, to see what is going through. And this is like an issue that's always been, and Lana can always jump in on this one. There's always an issue with trying to get any kind of aid to Syria because of military involvement. It's very difficult to do that because of that. But hopefully, and it seems so, that the Russian military is starting to, at least the Syrian regime is allowing more corridors of access to open now because of the urgency of the situation.
Do you feel like they weren't opened enough in time?
No, not at all. I mean, that was the biggest issue. I mean, they only had one corridor of access, and that one corridor of access was damaged in the earthquake, which made it even harder. The roads were damaged. It was difficult for aid to get there as quickly as possible because there's only one left, and that's the damaged one. And this kind of goes hand in hand. Just pivoting back to U.S. involvement, one of the issues is you can't. It's very difficult to directly send aid to Syria. Financially, at least, right? And because of that, along with the fact that it's hard to get material aid into Syria. You just have this country that is almost strangled. I would use the word strangled.
Can I add something? So the aid that was coming into Syria, started coming in 2 or 3 days after the earthquake hit. That's 2 or 3 days, too late. There was people who were under the rubble for 2 or 3 days that were still alive and still waiting for aid, with literally the people there who were trying to rescue had nothing. They were trying to take people from under the rubble out with their bare hands because they had no equipment, they had no rescue teams, they had nothing.
And many of these search teams, there's also another issue in of itself in the region, was that there's just not enough search teams either. Unfortunately, with the way that it's just not an expected thing, but there just wasn't enough search teams. There's a famous team called the White Helmets of Syria that do a lot of great work during the war. At its peak, they would, whenever a building would collapse because of bombardment, they would be the ones that would go in there and save people. and they're just too stretched thin, to my understanding, right? They're just too stretched thin throughout Syria, and I imagine that some of them have gone to help Turkey as well. But it's very difficult on top of not enough search teams, aid, and social stress. There's just not enough going to these people, and I hope people become more aware when they're looking at it politically, to be worried, at least with the international politics, when they choose their senator, their member of the representative. That's very important to do. You have to be aware, because it's not just about domestic policy, it's also international. And this is a country that we do have a lot of leverage over, and we should do that correctly.
So, can I ask you, if you were in a position of political power in
Right.
the U.S., what would you do in terms of advocacy and legislation in order to help Syrians?
I would advocate to remove sanctions. This is plain and simple. Just remove sanctions. I understand that they were put in place to incentivize the Assad regime to step down, but this is no longer about politics right now. This is about a country that is war-torn, that does not have an international airport that functions for people to come in, that does not have enough corridors of access to receive care and supplies. This is a country that simply cannot receive financial aid that quickly, and if it can, it has two kind of exchange rates as well, right? Which makes it even harder for people to get money because of inflation. I cannot stress it enough. If I were a House of Representative member or a senator, 100%. And to my understanding, I think there are people who have pushed steps forward to that, but it's still not enough. I do worry that people have become very blissfully unaware of the region.
I think that I agree with what you're saying, like removing sanctions. I feel like the sanctions are kind of like very counterintuitive. The sanctions were placed on the government to pressure it to stepping down, but the sanctions only really truly affected the people, and the government has demonstrated time and time again that it does not really care about its people. So it doesn't really do anything to pressure the government, because at the end of the day, the government is still has food. The government still has electricity. This government still has gas. The government can still operate their vehicles with everything. Like, they still have everything that they need to live and to survive, but the people don't. And even before the earthquake happened, that was like a huge issue and a huge problem. But now with the earthquake, it's like magnified by like 100 folds.
Is there anything else you guys would like to add?
In terms of as a senator?
No, just like in general.
In general? Read into the issue. I think that's probably the biggest thing. If you don't jump to give aid immediately, there's a lot of organizations that don't get money to there. So do your research, read, understand what has been going on, understand the geopolitical context of why aid can't be sent there directly and quickly, and if you can, give money when you know you found a good organization, because good organizations are hard to come by these days.
And would you guys like to list out any specific organizations like you trust or are trying to like find to be reliable?
Not really. No.
Really? We have the list. I thought.
I mean, we have a list, but
Or are you guys still reading into that to make sure they're good?
there's the problem with the organizations is that even the organizations that are good and actually getting money to people, they are like being constricted by the government. So I don't have like a set list, like set in stone of organizations that are like 100% gonna get the money to people. So I don't want to give that right now.
That's all right. I was just wondering because my bad. I was just wondering because you were saying do you research, but I wanted to see like if people could get a little head start since you guys are obviously well versed in the subject.
I mean, it's hard to find good organizations, especially Turkey does not have sanctions. It's much easier to get aid there. To get to Syria is like that's I mean, if you wanted to send direct aid to, if you wanted to do like a Western Union exchange, you want to send money there, it was if you send 100, you only get 40 there because of all these different fees and all these different things that make it harder. There's a lot of fees. A lot of financial companies are very worried to send money there, and if they can, they'll add a lot of fees, and sort of it just makes it harder to do it.
Got
Thank
it.
you.
Of course. Thank you so much again for this interview. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having us.